Yeah. I should remember that by now. All right, I'll call the meeting to order and we'll salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to accept the meeting agenda.
So move.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the previous minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report and warrants.
So move.
Second.
Discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Administrator's report. Ms. O'Shaughnessy?
Hi, everybody. So I'll be doing the same thing that I do every year, every meeting, and that is just highlighting some points from various sections of my report. But like always, if there's anything else you'd like me to touch on, just let me know. Under student highlights, I just wanted to talk about the 6th grade information night. It was it's the mistype. There's a mistype there. It was a successful night, but it was not highly attended. The people who went really appreciated the format, but we didn't get great attendance. And it's kind of funny because in past years, we were asked to move that kind of thing later into the year. And this year, the comment was that we should have it before school starts. And I was trying to figure out why that is. And I think that we can explain that by the fact that before we focus on getting the students' devices into their hands, we tried by the second week so that by the time we held this event, the students had only had their devices for a short time. And we were showing parents, how to access things on the kids' devices. Well, now, because of the way that we manage the devices, the kids have them the second day of school. I mean, Tony and Adam are putting devices into middle schoolers' hands that very first week. So now I think that we're going to go ahead and try to do it before school next year. They like the format, but we're going to try to change the date again. Administratively, we have a half day coming up. October 8th is going to be an early dismissal right after our emergency evacuation drill. So PDP committee is working on developing our professional development offerings that day. At this point, we have 3 different options for teachers and aides and assistants. We'll be having hospice come in to, talk about how do we help students with grief. We have sensational kids, and Pam has an alternative for folks who the sensational isn't appropriate for what they're doing, and perhaps their personal situation isn't the best for them to be able to sit through a hospice presentation. So, they might be fragile at the moment. So we have an option for those folks as well. Another thing I wanted to mention is that over the summer, we had planned on sending a team of teachers to the Writing Revolution training that was happening at BOCES, but that ended up being canceled. So instead, we purchased the book ourselves, and Krisha and I are working on doing a book study, and the first meeting for that is tomorrow. And so far, we use Google Classroom for a platform. And so far, the comments that are coming in are very positive. So I'm kind of excited about what this could mean for our high school and making sure that our writing curriculum continues to be strong moving forward. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on, I know we mentioned this before, that we're doing something new for the social emotional aspect that we're required to pay attention to over the past few years. And that is our nighttime, which is 10 minutes for every student after lunch. The beginning, when we first started, it was, just like everything, when you're brand new at something, it's a little clunky. But now, as we're moving into our 4th week of school, it has become, just kids expect it. They get to their 7th period class. The slide is waiting for them as provided by the counseling department and a few others. And whether they're watching a video, doing an activity, or engaging in a live meet, they are, prepared. So they have that 10 minutes to just decompress after lunch before class starts. Mondays are mindful Mondays. We have time management Tuesdays, wild card Wednesdays, thoughtful Thursdays, and free read Fridays. So our counseling department and I think Krish is also part of that. Marissa is also part of that. They are working really hard to make sure that this is as smooth a process as possible, so that the teachers just have to click and go with it. So a lot of hard work going into that. And we are already getting some positive feedback from students, because for topics, we've already had a few students go to the counselors to say, we really need to address this. Is there a way we could do that at nighttime? So it's definitely something that is positive so far. And if, we continue to get the good feedback, perhaps we'll leave it as part of our schedule indefinitely. If it's a good year this year with it, we'll keep on going. So that's what I have right now that I thought I wanted to highlight. Is there anything on my report that you would like me to elaborate upon?
Anybody, or are there any other questions for Mrs. O'Shaughnessy?
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Ratliff.
All right. Well, putting my board report aside, I have exciting news, and we were officially awarded our new Healthy Nights grant from DODEA today. This is, I'm super excited about this. It's a $500,000 grant over 5 years. So it's double the size of our previous grants. And it's something I'm really passionate about. It has really 2 strategies. One of them is helping kids build resilience for their future through things like nutrition and exercise, understanding the environment and how their actions affect the environment, that type of thing. And we're partnering with Cornell Cooperative Extension for that piece of it. And it also includes a literacy coach. So something, if you read my board report, you see that I'm really concerned about our reading, which is comparable actually to the national average, but regardless, I'm still concerned about our reading, and this is going to be fit in perfectly with that. So super excited, lots of great things to come from that. And it connects to pretty much everything in my board report. So I'm not sure if there are other things on there that you would like me to speak on, but I'm my head is in the DODEA grant frame of mind right now.
Well, congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Pretty exciting.
I'm sure we'll be able to put that to really good use. The need is there, and we've now got a grant to help us with that. So that's awesome. Any other questions for Mrs. Ratliff? All right. Thank you very much. Superintendent's report.
So, so far so good with COVID compared to what's happening in the rest of the county. We still have only 1 quarantined student thus far, and that is unrelated to school. I still feel like it's coming. We had 7 UPK students out today, UPK 3 students out today. So that's a little concerning, but I think RSV is also going around, and they're seeing a lot of symptoms from that. Not a lot of symptoms from positive COVID students, but a lot of pretty nasty symptoms from RSV. So, which just clouds the whole situation even more, because the nurse, as I mentioned in my report, in the middle of the week, she was getting a lot of kids coming down with similar symptoms to COVID and sending them home. And some of the parents were getting a little angry. I did speak to a few parents and just shared with them that, we're in a difficult position. You know your child better than we do, and you send them to school, but then the nurse, the teacher sees them in the classroom with tissue stuffed up their nose, sends them to the nurse. The nurse evaluates that, and it could be COVID. So she calls and sends them home, and that disrupts the parents having to get out of work and all of that. So it's actually more difficult this year, even though we went through it last year and we were naive to everything. This year should be battle tested and be able to handle this better, and it seems to be more confusing and harder. So that's where we are. Guidance is out for winter sports. Masking will be required for all indoor sports. Testing is recommended. Right now, as you know, we're going to be testing staff starting probably maybe the 4th of October, maybe not till the 12th of October. We're still trying to iron out some of the details on that. 12th would probably be the latest we'll start testing. And we also have the ability to test student athletes if that's what we choose to do. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet. Mentioned before also, we're struggling to get substitute teachers. We went through that process from about February on, and we hired all the good ones. And when you got down the line, it was harder to find. And, there aren't a lot of substitute teachers out there right now because most people have a job. With all of the stimulus money that schools received, Copenhagen included, a lot of teachers were hired this hiring season. So subs are few and far between. What we have done is we signed an MOU with the union last week, and we're going to use teachers on their prep period or during their lunch period to cover classes. Nadine will do the high school, middle school, and Pam elementary. And they've already sent out a Google form requesting teachers to put down when they would be available. And then what we'll do is they'll put groups together, a morning group and an afternoon group, and kind of like a team. They'll put 5, because everybody, obviously their prep periods are all different. So whoever's free first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, they'll be a team. Same with the afternoon. And if we have to use that, we won't have to scramble. We had to scramble. I don't remember which day it was last week, but we were scrambling around at the last minute trying to cover teachers and putting a body in there, anybody, just so we could get started. And we don't want to have to run into that every time we run out of subs. So we'll have a team on hand to do that. We're going to pay them $20 for every time they do it, and we'll pay them in increments of 5 times. So 5 coverages will equal $100. So something that's actually not new to education. Carthage has been doing that for quite some time. So it's, we were fortunate enough not to have a problem with it up until now, and now we do. So we're joining in on that. As mentioned, we'll be testing faculty and staff starting probably the 4th or 12th. 88% of our faculty and staff are vaccinated right now. So it looks like we're going to be testing 19 out of about 124. So not a bad number. That does not include substitutes. So we're still going to try and figure out what that will look like. We're requesting that information from the subs we use all the time. But if we get in a situation where we have to call a sub that we haven't had before, other schools are in the same boat. If they can bring show us that they're vaccinated or show us that they have a negative test in the past 7 days, then they can work. But we made it kind of clear to public health, all of us in our last meeting, that we're not going to leave a class empty if someone doesn't happen to have a test when they show up on our doorstep, only because they just got called for the first time and maybe they didn't even know the rules. So if we're going to use who we can, obviously do our best to follow the mandate, but at the same time, we're going to put, people in front of kids to make sure we're still learning. We also are having to test officials, which is becoming a real challenge. They're considered contractors. So I've gotten all the information from all four. We have swimming, cross country, soccer, and girls tennis. No, not girls tennis, swimming. So I have all of that information. So our ADs will all have that information before, and they get an assignment. It's called the arbiter now. So they can look on the computer to see who's officiating their game that night. And then they can look at the list, provided both officials are vaccinated. Their job is over at that point. If they're not, those officials will have to show up at the game with a negative test within the past 7 days. And again, we're not going to shut a game down if an official comes and says, oh my gosh, I got tested yesterday, I forgot to bring my papers with me. And if somebody wants to take advantage of that, and we'll just say to them, you can officiate tonight, but you won't be able to officiate again without the proper information. Well, they could do that 7 days in a row at 7 different schools and get away with it. And if somebody's going to try and beat the system, in all honesty, if you're a good official, you're never within 6 feet of anybody anyway. I should say for a fall sport. Winter sport's a little bit different, but for a fall sport, if you're doing well as a soccer official, you're not anywhere near people. So that's where we are with that. Any questions? That's all I have. I do have a couple of discussion items later, but that's it for my report.
Any questions for Mr. Connell?
So,
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Who's paying for the testing for the teachers?
Say that again.
Say that
Who's
again.
paying for the testing for the teachers?
It's a federal grant we're using through BOCES. So they're going to deliver, actually BOCES has 10,000 tests right now. We'll be getting, I asked for 35, even though we're not probably going to use 35. So BOCES is paying, well, not BOCES, the federal government's paying for that. And we are getting reimbursed. I'm not really sure. I watched the video this weekend of how the whole process works. And I'm not sure. It seems like it's going to be rather time consuming, and I really don't want to put that upon our nurse. She has enough to do during the day than to worry about that. If it's an hour or 2 hours of time it takes to do that, we can hire somebody and be reimbursed for that person. And it does not have to be a nurse. Actually, the people will be swabbing themselves. It's a matter of the time consuming part is the documentation of everything. You have to, so when the kit comes with a barcode and you take 2 swabs, one goes in a pool, one goes in an individual, got to put them in a box. Right now there's not enough scanners. So we're actually going to have to input that barcode number in. So until we really do it for the first couple of times, we're not going to know how long it takes. And then at that point, we may have to find and employ someone to test weekly, and then we'll be reimbursed for that money by Lewis County Public Health. So some up north, they're doing the rapid tests and actually paying for them. But this is an expensive way to do it, and it's actually a more accurate test. And I did find out, I don't know if I shared this last time, but I thought our initial understanding of how it worked is, say we tested on Monday, we FedExed it, the company gets it Tuesday, it's 48 hours to test. If the pool, that would be Thursday. If the pool comes back with any positives, then they have to go test each one. And then, so it might even be Saturday by the time we'd find out, which is kind of crazy that, somebody could have been positive on Monday and been in front of kids all week. But actually what they're saying now is it's going to get FedExed out. It's going to get tested on Tuesday. Latest is be Wednesday. Latest would be Tuesday night. They would have the results. And they don't wait for the pool test to be done. They test it immediately after. So we don't even know if a pool was positive or not. All we're going to know is who the person was that was positive. We won't even know what the outcome of the pool was. So they're saying by Wednesday, Thursday at the latest, we'll know. So, at least it's only going to be 3 days instead of 5, but it's still 3 days that a faculty member or staff could be in front of kids positive. So I think
Well, then all we have to do is take another test and it comes back negative, like happened on the View.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reality is, as we've said before, I mean, this is just a strong arm attempt to get people vaccinated. It really isn't going to really make kids any safer. And they don't really need to do that for us. We're 88% vaccinated, which from what I understand is herd immunity. So I think we're in a good place. I still will not be comfortable until, we get our first one and it's only one case and it came from outside the school, not in, because right now, I think I mentioned in my board report, there's over 300 students quarantined in Lewis County right now. And I'll talk a little bit in discussion. I got some questions to ask you where in the direction we want to go if we do fall into that, what South Lewis and Beaver River have seen thus far. Any other questions?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Connell.
Yep.
We'll move to new business. We need a motion to approve the revised building level school emergency response plan.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the revised district-wide school safety plan.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Appointment of the mentors for the school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of substitute nurse daily rate.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the substitutes for this year.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items. Goals work session, October 12th. That's still okay with everyone?
Yep.
All right.
I'd like to use, I know we talked about doing our board goals in September, but honestly, I haven't even spoken with Nadine or Pam yet. As I said, this has probably been a more challenging start to a school year than last year was, so we haven't really had a whole lot of time to have those discussions. So I'd like to do that prior to October 12th, and then we can use that meeting for developing our board goals for 21-22. If that's okay with everyone. Lots of nods, that's good. So that was one of the discussion items. The second one was, just want to get a feeling for what people think if we were to fall into what, again, Beaver River, South Louis, and Lowville a little bit has experienced with a number of positive cases. And I think I shared, and I'm not sharing anything that Todd Green at Beaver River hasn't allowed us to share, but they did have spread in their building confirmed for second graders in a class of 14 that were not in any way related outside of school, no birthday parties, no family gatherings with the same family. So it really had only one place to spread, and that was in the building. So, and many others, they and South Louis had changed their policy. They were very similar to us. They were masking on the bus, masking in the hall, and then not masking when sitting in their chairs, regardless of distance. And we're, I think, a little bit better than that. And maybe that's why we dodge everything. We're masking at 6 feet, but our masking inside of 6 feet in most places, obviously not in the cafeteria. And in some classes, it's actually 6 feet, but if we were to have spread in our building, are we comfortable with doing what they did and what they're doing now is masking everywhere except for 6 feet? The only time they're not masking is when sitting in their desk at 6 feet. Haven't got any real data back from them yet, other than I haven't heard that they've had continued spread. So, but again, that came out from them just the middle of last week. So I don't think they have a real handle on it yet. So are we okay with doing that? I think, when we started this, obviously the state says you're masking everywhere. We chose to take a less conservative route, and with the understanding that if it didn't work, then we would reevaluate and change what we were doing. Is everybody okay if that's the case to start, mandate masks inside 6 feet? So again, we're doing that pretty much now, but not 100%.
I worry about it if it happens, but there's no evidence out there that shows that masking reduces the spread. So, in fact, the evidence is the opposite. Most schools have spiked the more masking they're doing. If you look at actual data.
I hear what you're saying.
I don't see any reason to do anything until there's some big issue.
Right.
And then it still probably won't be, it's not shown to change anything. If anything, make it worse.
Well, like I said, I hope we don't have to have this conversation again, because what we're doing right now, we are about not quite a month, 3 weeks into the school year, and so far so good. More worried about RSV.
That's much more deadly, and RSV is way more deadly, and it's exacerbated by moist masks on their mouth face, all kinds of bacteria. So, yeah, of course, it's mostly for the really young ones.
Apparently, Hoof and Mouth has made another go around in some places, I've heard. So I don't know if it is in the North Country schools, but it has in New York and places. And so that's another one to kind of keep an eye on.
Hoof and mouth. I never quite figured out what that was.
Very
Well,
contagious.
most of us have tried not to put our foot in their mouth too much anymore.
It's not good.
No.
No.
Canker sores,
Respiratory?
fevers.
Is it respiratory?
No, it's
It's
blisters
Oral.
inside the throat and inside the mouth that makes it very difficult to swallow and eat. It's very contagious in small children because
their
of
hands
the
in your mouth.
hands everywhere.
Right. Well, let's hope it doesn't make it this way. I think we have enough to worry about. We don't need another one, so. That's all I have. Do have one executive session discussion that I'll ask Mr. Luther to
All
stay at.
right.
We'll go to
Okay,
executive session.
so
Second.
I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think he had hoof and mouth.
So that was in favor?
All right.
Scott, did you stay on?
Yes, I'm still on.
Good night, everyone.
Excellent.